Hello, gorgeous, and welcome to the Women on Top podcast. I'm your host, Valerie Lynn, and with over 15 years of business experience, I became truly passionate about finding ways to support and hear from way more women. And what we know to be true is that women thrive when they are in their favorite position, on top in business, in relationships, in personal growth, and on top in being real and authentic to who the hell they are. So I invite you to sit back and enjoy the Women on Top podcast. Welcome back to another amazing episode of the Women on Top. And today I am just thrilled and elated to have Eva Chan with me. And she is the founder of LaunchPop. She is an award-winning founder though, which I find really interesting. We're going to dive into that a little bit. She's also an angel investor, which I'm fascinated by. So similarly, we'll have to get into that. She, in addition, is a Forbes 30 under 30 honoree, which is just amazing. And with 2 successful exits, she specializes in brand strategy, system building, growth. And as the founder of LaunchPop, Eva also just helps other founders achieve this rapid growth and success. And I'm just thrilled to introduce you all to the very intelligent and ambitious and such the storyteller, Eva Chan. And so Eva, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Valerie.
Yeah. I kind of want to go into how you started LaunchPop, but actually first, before we even get there, I want to start with a story that I read where you were talking about how you sold your clothes so that you could buy cheap wine and invite an advisor over for dinner. So could you talk about that, please? I want to hear the story again.
Oh my gosh. So in the early days of building LaunchPop, I had actually frivolously left my previous company without having a full runway of safety net to build it. But I just knew that this was something I need to do to help founders realize their dreams. And it's also circling back to what I enjoy doing. I just found a whole new energy. But that came with obviously unorganized ways of doing things, like not having enough cash. And so one time, for a couple months, I had only really like $30 or $70 in the bank, and just kind of always floating around there. Money would come, money would go, I have to pay rent, eat, live. But there was this one time I just had an advisor. He's not like an official advisor, but he was a great friend who has a deep financial background, and I wanted to bounce ideas off of him about the model I was creating at LaunchPop, and it's really new, and I wanted to collect equity as an option for founders who are very bootstrapped, so that in return I'm really just making investments into these early stage companies, and so I do get something back in return for helping them. But I couldn't take him out. I couldn't, go out and have a drink and do the usual like smoozing that people do, right? And so I just gathered a whole bunch of clothes that I had in my closet and went to Buffalo Exchange. And shockingly, they give you back so little.
I'm always so surprised. I've tried doing this myself. I'm like, what? These are good clothes.
It's like, all right, well, these are good pieces for $30. Okay, that will get me some cheap wine from Trader Joe's, some pasta that I could make, and it turned out to be a great evening.
Oh, I appreciate this so much because we don't hear these stories about those times when you literally are trying to just figure out, how am I going to make this work? Is it going to be going to Buffalo Exchange and then having the pasta and the wine? So what was the outcome of that evening? You said it was really great, but then what did that lead you to?
I think moments like that, it creates very special times for me. Like I'm not doing that anymore. But what's funny enough is I think back to those moments a lot. the times of like survival when I have to be quick on my feet, it was actually really exhilarating.
Yeah.
So it's what's brought me. It's just brought a lot of beautiful memories for me.
Yeah. And what was it like? I know there were some stories too about this, being 30 under 30 and getting to that nomination. And I think you were sharing how this is not what it is cracked up to be, or it is definitely a different story. So can you share that? Because I feel like so many people have that on a
So
pedestal.
many. So
Yeah.
many. You have no idea how many emails, how many DMs I get on LinkedIn of folks I don't even know. And they are under 30 and they have these goals of getting Forbes under 30, and asking for a nomination, asking, how did you get it? And it's very funny to me. I mean, it's easy for me to say because I got it, but I just think it's very funny to me because um, it doesn't mean much.
Mm.
It's just a plaque, it's just a stamp. Um, when I was chasing growth in my previous company, and it was amazing. Like we grew all the way to 6.5 million in revenue in just under 2 years, right? And that's how I won Forbes. But I wasn't thinking about getting Forbes when I was doing that. I was really surviving. There was just so much growth. I was just trying to keep up with it. It's just, I was dying. I was losing hair, um, I eventually even left the company because I was burning out. It wasn't serving me or inspiring me anymore. And so what's kind of like I guess like the friction here is, you get it, but you don't feel fulfilled because you're absolutely burnt out. And you realize, all these folks say congrats to you, and they think you're a millionaire at this point, and you reach these like high metrics and crazy growth, but inside it, in the end, it means nothing. Inside, I'm just dead. I
Mm.
am just an empty shell that I don't even care about the praise. I'm so tired of just chasing after a headline after headline, and I've what's underneath it all is me pushing off birthdays, pushing off seeing my girlfriends, pushing off friendships, right? Pushing off weddings that I could have attended, pushing off my family, right? Just so that I could achieve this crazy growth, and then this Forbes 30 under 30. Um, Fast forward, now that I like think back, it's probably something I had to do, but it's it's not the end all goal here. I think what's really important is finding that balance, right? True happiness is not a Forbes 30 under 30. The way I define happiness now is actually having the privilege to spend time with your family, having the privilege to hang out with your friends anytime we're both available. That is happiness. That is success, right?
Was there a significant moment for you when you were going through that made you realize I'm done doing it this way and I'm going to
Mhm.
redefine success for myself?
Yeah, I think it really happened when I decided to walk away from my previous company, and I didn't have very much in the bank, right? And the headline was still very fresh in the world, and people are still congratulating me, and they still think that I'm a millionaire. But I am struggling to build this other company now, and I have $30 in the bank, and I'm, selling my clothes, hosting my room as an Airbnb, and running away from the landlord. It's just the juxtaposition of those stories. That was really hard for me. Like people thinking that I'm like doing very well, but I'm not. And suddenly I can't even talk about not doing well because the stories don't connect.
Gosh, I wonder if this is, I mean, because I've never experienced this, it makes me think, I wonder if this is what fame is like sometimes for people. I mean, just in the sense of like you achieve this thing that you
Mhm.
think you want, your album goes platinum or whatever it is, or the movie does well, or whatever the thing is, and you're trending and you're looking in the mirror, reflecting like, what does this even mean? Like,
Yeah,
what is it all worth?
for sure. And it doesn't have to be such like, that's like a huge example too, right? It could be very minor. Like
Right.
being a founder itself, like we're constantly having to be told as a leader to have clarity, have your goals, right? Set your rocks, and steer the ship, right? So that everyone can move in the same direction and stay focused. But behind it all, like we're trying to figure shit out. We're building something new, right? It's a whole new category. We're disrupting something. All those keywords, right, mean
Mhm.
that you don't know it. You're still figuring it out. And so as founders, just alone, this role is so hard because you always have to juggle clarity and like figuring shit out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely that balance. And I do feel that rigor around know what you want, get focused, create your action steps, create your goals, like where are you heading?
Mhm.
And some of the time, I wish people would just say, I don't actually know. This is what I think it is for now, but that could change,
Yeah.
right? Like that could change.
Yeah.
Um, I wonder also, where did you get this kind of tenacity? Like, I feel like there's a hunger in you to be inventive and to be on this like search to kind of develop new things. And you're a little bit of a risk taker by nature, I think. Where did that come from?
It's a really good question. And um, there's always like my husband is in the medical field and he has to be trained to not take risks. He
Mm-hmm.
is trained to, in order to thrive in his profession, he has to be black and white. There is no room for A/B testing, right? But then the very opposite in our world is all about the A/B testing, making mistakes, ship, launch, break it. Um, and so I always wonder, like, what is it about our upbringing that makes us the way we are? And right now, I distill it to my parents, and um, watching my dad build companies growing up and taking
Mm-hmm.
risk and literally investing in properties and hearing them say they've only got pennies left after that investment. And that's like super risky. But 30 years down the road, I watch my father reap the rewards of taking that risk. But also, when he first made the investment, see how scared my mom was, right? See
Mm-hmm.
how bootstrapped we were as a family. I can never wear new clothes. I've always had hand-me-downs all the way until like high school, right? And so like living in that environment, I was very used to it ever since I was a child.
Wow. I
Yeah.
think that's it's really pertinent information, to look back on that and to think about how did that help shape me. I always wonder how people get those traits, like that riskiness, that willingness to kind of put it all on the line. But I'm sure some of that you've also shaped and molded to be something that you want. Like you talk about the family is so important now too, and making sure you spend time with them. So I think it all kind of comes full circle.
Yeah.
Do you think it's like it's something that we can learn? I am still, I feel like learning to take risks. Is that something that can be learned, or is it something that's just innate that we're born with?
Of course, I think it's always a practice, right? With everything. Like, for example, optimizing your work and your life, right? It can't be 50-50, or it can't be like, I have work life balance, right? Some
Mm-hmm.
days it's 90-10, right? I have no work life balance today. But big picture, because I'm working on it, it's already huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the same thing with risk taking. Like you have to be fully aware that like you're practicing it every day. Same with your health, you have to practice it, right? And so as you practice more and more and be very aware about it and tweak it and be forgiving that some days are different, you're on a really good path. Right?
I like that. I like the practice of it, and it's something that we don't talk about a lot. Is there something that you rely on as your internal like navigation system, or how do you assess now, knowing what you know, what risks you're going to lean into and
Mhm.
what you're going to steer away from?
Gosh, that's such a big question. Like if you asked me this pre baby, like asked me this back in 2019. I was living by myself in Santa Monica by the beach. I'll take any risk. I'll take all the risks. I'll go do crazy shit with you. Right, give me some alcohol, it's done. I will stand on top of a bar. I will twerk in front of everyone, and like I'll walk into a club without being in. There's no reason for me to be at VIP, but I will walk into the club through VIP, right? Because I'm not scared. There's nothing to lose. Um, but now that I have a family, everything that I'm building has changed. Every reason to be, every reason to grow the company is beyond me now.
Mm-hmm.
I have this new energy and new found purpose. That what I'm doing today is for my family, for my daughter, and I want to grow. I want to evolve. Even myself, like I thought I knew who I was,
Yeah.
for the past 30 years. But after having a daughter, I'm like, whoa, I need to reprogram myself. I'm actually very impatient.
I really love that. Like this identity shift that happens
Yeah.
because I think a lot of, I mean, I don't know, I just have heard of friends who go into motherhood hoping that they will just still be this motivated, like
Mhm.
driven businesswoman, and things shift. And then it's like this scary darkness that happens of, wait, who am I now?
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah, and for me, it was interesting. Like I was still very motivated, but even more hyper focused now because
Mhm.
I have very limited productive time,
Yes.
and within that time, I'm very careful about who comes in, who gets that space, and what I'm doing during that time. And so it's extremely focused now, not by choice.
Mhm.
Um, and in terms of what I'm doing for why I'm doing this, it's because I want stability. Why am I taking this risk? Because I believe it's a calculated risk. So
Mhm.
it's everything's just more focused, smarter,
Mhm.
efficient.
Yeah. What are some of the things that you are hyper focused on right now as far as business and work?
I think for me right now, I'm just extremely hyper focused on building the relationship with the right missions. Um, Gone are the days where I will help like a phone case company. You
Yeah.
know, I truly believe that the skill sets that we have here in our company with growth, marketing, design, it's a skill set that unlocks missions. It brings missions to life, right? And that comes with a responsibility. And so whoever receives this ability to bring their company to life, I really do hope they are the missions that matter for this world, right?
Mm.
And not just the ones that are about driving revenue or putting out another piece of phone case into this
Yeah,
world, right?
I like that. Missions that matter. That means a lot. And just having that, that is a good hyper focus because your time meaning to the thing that you're actually doing within the organization. And let's talk about that. So let's talk about what is LaunchPop? What's the story to, I think you moved from Canada to
Mhm.
LA, right? And I think you started the company somewhere in that process. So
Yeah.
can you talk about the journey of what that was like?
Yeah, I started LaunchPop by accident. I
Love it.
was, as I mentioned, running a whole previous company, um, and I got bored because it was in this phase where we were hiring middle management folks. And so reconnected with an acquaintance, and he was just a product manager at Tesla at the time, came back from Korea and wanted to launch this like hangover drink. In Korea, the culture there is very used to drinking this like herbal tonic that you grab from 7-Eleven after a night out. And they just keep going that way. Work hard,
Mhm.
play hard.
Mm.
But in America, 7 years ago, we only had like hair of the dog or like what's your In-N-Out burger, right?
God, so embarrassing.
There's really no real solution or like culture built surrounding feeling better, right? And so he really wanted to launch this whole new category. And so I helped him do research and launch it. And the challenge with working on this was there was no Nielsen trends data or brands that existed that we can learn from, right? And so how I did this was I leveraged Meta as a platform to do an experiment, smoke test, put a mock-up of the brand out there as an ad, and target this ad to 10 different interest groups. I just wanted to see who's going to click, who's going to give us an email, and also really to abolish an assumption, because we always have an assumption of who our target audience is, but not truly backed by data. Right? And so in this particular brand, they were assuming college students and clubs were the avenue for how we position it and market it. But the data told us otherwise. Only college students just clicked but didn't give us an email. Folks who did both were in finance, were in tech, they were your moms, they were your gamers. So really, really interesting data. And then the second test I did was asking, okay, if you had only like 2 seconds to click on this brand because of this messaging or this benefit, what will it be? Is it the all natural ingredients piece, the clinical studies, the founder story in tech, or feeling better the next day? And it was very clear the messaging about feeling better the next day performed extremely well. And so that gave us data on how to brand the product. Now a product, not for clubs, right? Not for partying. It's actually a productivity hack. And it led us then to our market strategy, which is to find platforms that have this audience naturally existing, and it's Product Hunt, Indiegogo. He did $1 million in the first quarter, and it's been 7 years now. We touch all categories of CPG products that do e-commerce, and that framework we call it signal testing now. So essentially, that's what LaunchPop is. We do a ton of research, go-to-market strategy, design, building your websites, your packaging, and then that's what I call the house. You got to build your house. We're here to build your house, and then we market it after with your ads, your email, etc.
So other companies now come to you and say, "Hey, we have this amazing product." And do you help them with all the testing beforehand too, to make sure?
Yeah.
How do you do that? Is it still, I would imagine it's different than Meta, but
Yeah, no, we still do this very similar tests.
okay.
The ads run on Instagram, run on Facebook. We still get a lot of data through that. It helps kind of anchor decisions on, okay, how do we scale into other platforms as well? Because Meta is still a very robust platform to give you a ton of data as a starting point for a really low cost.
Yeah, I love that. It's such a good way, like you just were able to get into that market. And like you say, sometimes that persona that we have this assumption around is actually very different,
Mm-hmm.
which is humbling, but also great to be able to have that insider data to position it that way. I don't know nearly the amount of knowledge or have the information that you do when it comes to starting and scaling companies, but I know a lot of women who do or who are interested in that. So I'm curious, what kind of advice do you have for the woman who is maybe newer into launching her product-based business? What are some just like key things that she can walk away from this conversation with?
First of all, I understand it's very scary because you um, don't. What's scary is not having a roadmap ahead of you and knowing what to do next, what to prioritize first, because there's so many layers happening at the same time. Your manufacturing, your branding, your packaging, photography, your pricing model. What is my revenue model? Like there's just so much to think about simultaneously. It's very hard to know what to prioritize and what's not as important. What can you prioritize later on? Um, I think that puts a stop on a lot of people because they're afraid to fail. Right? And so, if there's anything to take away from this, is that there is no playbook. But I think don't be scared to just head into it and make mistakes. I think free yourself from the mistakes that will happen, because we're all just humans. If deep and down inside you've picked a product or a mission that resonates in you and creates a fire in you, you will figure it out. That's the most
Mm.
important piece here. Is like, does it give you a piece of fire inside to keep you going?
Which is, I love that because it is really true. And I have heard the saying that, you want to have, like, to choose something that you can wake up like every day, and no matter how hard it is, you're
Mhm.
willing to deal with the problems because you love it so much. I
Yes,
guess there's
because
quite
the
a few
problems are
things.
endless. You can do well, and the problems are still there. They
Yeah,
just change.
they just shift. Exactly. I wonder for you, have you ever had challenges being a female in this industry? Like, have you ever felt certain ways or had trouble feeling like you were being taken seriously in situations? What
Have
has
you
that?
heard my voice? And then have you seen my face? So many times. There's so many things. Of course, the voice. I naturally have like a younger voice, that makes it hard for me to be taken seriously. Right. And so I have to let my case studies, I have to let my results speak for itself. As a result, I have to work a little harder to stand out. Right. But there's also, the odd moments, that come with being a woman, in the industry. For example, um, one time there was this photographer who, was not part of our network. It was recommended by the founder, and we were working with this big brand that came from Asia. And it was a tech brand, tech hardware brand, and the photographer was a friend of theirs. We were just having a meeting, and he said, "Hey, hold on one sec." And then he starts talking to his friends, his buddies beside him. He's like, "Yo, guys, come over here. Check this out. What do you rate her out of 10?" Just pauses the whole meeting just to do that.
Gosh.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's just
I
little
don't know
moments.
what I would even do with that. Like,
It's
I don't,
mind blowing. It's very minor too, right? It's not. You doesn't always have to be like they grabbed your butt, right? It's
right.
very minor. Um, and then another example is this like rock star who wanted to. He has this like tattoo, skincare brand, and in order to go to his house, you have to wear black. It has nothing to do with being a woman or anything. But the fact that I have to dress a certain way to come meet you and do business already crosses a line. Man, to not move forward with that.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, so wild. Like, that would just make my skin crawl. The whole, hold on, let's pause a meeting. What do you rate her out of? Wow. Uh, it just, anyway, that's a whole different podcast episode, but I feel like there's so much we could say about how far we have come as women. And then there's so much we can say about the growth that still needs to happen. And if I remember correctly, you actually were like hiding your pregnancy at one point,
Mm-hmm.
and really didn't want it to show that to the people you're working with. So,
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit about that? What was that like? I feel like that must have been so
Yes.
hard to do.
It's so interesting as I went through that. I have to ask myself why. Why do I feel this way? And I realized, my upbringing, and so many of us in our, late 20s and onwards, we grew up in an era as kids, um, seeing mom work at home, seeing mom not have the like job, the top paying job,
Right.
and just having to see and be surrounded by how society view women, right? I had a view of my mom being weaker because she was a stay-at-home mom. I always attributed to my dad as the money maker. He is the smarter guy. He is more logical, right? I'm just being real.
Yeah.
Um, right. And And I have a whole new profound respect for her now that I'm a mother, a whole new understanding of her sacrifice. But as I was pregnant, I had this is such a bad word to say, but I had internalized misogyny, really. Like, I viewed myself as weaker. No one told me that. No one said it to me. No one said, hey, you have a bump, don't show it. Don't tell
Mhm.
anyone because it's going to make you look weak as a founder. I was telling that to myself, not out loud, but really, really quietly saying that. And
Yeah.
it made all the little decisions. It moved all the, it somehow controlled me inside. And so I decided to hide my pregnancy from the team because I was just so afraid of what they might think.
Mm.
Um, and I hid it from clients. And so for a whole year, I didn't see anyone. I was just this. You just see my shoulders and my face. That's it.
Yes. That's crazy that you can put it into words that just make so much sense about like you internalized all of that, all of the feelings around nothing that was spoken outwardly, but the assumptions that are made and the stories that we still have that are so ingratiated about what it means to be a woman and not just a woman, but a woman who is a mother. And I feel like this is so real, which is why I brought that up because it is definitely something that we still struggle with today.
Yes.
And it makes me think like what, and I think you're really passionate about this too, which is creating spaces for women who are moms to network. But it makes me think about like, what do we need to do to help this? And maybe that's the solution that you're creating. So is that kind of where that passion comes from around networking?
Yeah, I think like um, there is a systematic need here
Yeah.
for a change, for more inclusiveness, that women and men go through different phases of their lives and they're not just single young adults, right?
Mhm.
And I think right now all of our network and events and the way um, business interactions happen surround that lifestyle of not
Mm.
having any kids or whatnot. Um, and so I have a passion right now to find ways to unlock that for people who have a family, for women who are mothers, like hoping that there are events and leadership summits that allow for kids to be there, right? Allow for women to um, do it during the daytime. Doesn't have to happen at nighttime. Right?
Yeah.
Why is it always 7 p.m. onwards with cocktails? Why can't it be at noon, right? Um, and why isn't there childcare all the time
Mm.
at these events or the option to opt in for childcare, right? I think there just needs to be more dialogue about this. And if I ever host events, I think I should keep that in mind always.
I have always thought it would be neat to have a coffee shop and like a daycare, like,
Yeah.
or, a childcare center next to it because it's so needed. Like you said, it can happen during the day, it can happen at all times, but we need to be thinking of that in like such a holistic sense. And how do we create spaces for it to happen organically, which has happened. I mean, in my opinion, it's happened for many, many years for men, right? Like they go golf, they go out to dinner. That's like just a kind of a natural built in thing, a part of the process. Women really need that. And so I think we need to start, like you said, curating some of those spaces the way that we wish they existed.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah. What is one of your favorite like company stories or a company that you worked with that just stands out for you in your mind in a positive way?
Um, there are so many brands that come to us with an idea already. They will say, "Hey, I'm trying to create this like probiotic brand. It's a pill, and I want to help women and help them with their periods. Really, that's it. Help me figure out how to market this." And suddenly, it's kind of like saying, "I'm a size 8. Help me fit into a size 7 shoe," right?
Mm.
Because you're already coming here with the plan. You're already coming here with all your assumptions and you're being rigid and you're not letting the world you're not help you shape it and you're not listening, right?
Mm.
Some of the coolest brands I've worked with are One, for example, gem vitamins. It's this multivitamin that you can chew and eat like real food bite. Sarah, she came to us, really just wanted to work with the ingredient spirulina
Mm,
because it's good for the world. Net negative carbon footprint, and her mission is, if I can just create a company out of this, we can use more of it and promote this more and be good for the earth. That's it. And for 3-4 months we did research on figuring out, okay, what kind of product can come out of this. Is it a drink? Is it a bar? Is it a snack, a chip? And really also, like, I had to dive into what is this ingredient. I discovered that it was nutrient dense. It had so much to offer, and um, asking folks who initially showed interest on the idea, asking them about, okay, what if, because it's so nutrient dense, it could be a vitamin? Why aren't you eating your vitamins? Or do you eat your vitamins? When do you eat it? And the data came out of that was they buy it, but it's always stored in the pantry and we forget it. Why?
mhm.
Because we don't crave it. And so the result was, hey, we need to create a vitamin we crave so that we stop forgetting to eat it, because we do want it, we just forget it. And so that's the birth of GEM.
Wow, that's such a good story. And I love how the data told the story. The data told you what was needed. I hadn't even thought of, like, I would have never put that together, right?
Right.
Like, I would have never thought, gosh, I need to crave my vitamins. But it makes so much sense that way. And I also really love what you shared about like having this malleable, open mind to what the world can show you about it. Like, yeah, sure, you have this mission of how can we get this out into the world more? This is something you really believe in, but then the way in which it's done might show up differently than what you think. So that's such a good lesson of like maybe letting go of some of the attachment that we always put onto the way we think it's going to
Yes.
play out with everything.
Yeah. Distill it to something simple, more mission driven, and just let the product is really just the output of that. And it can always change as long as it's still fitting in your mission.
I love that. I have this question about the angel investing just because I want to hear more about that. It's something I've heard about, and at some point I would like to consider myself to be an angel investor.
Mhm.
For those listening that maybe are like, gosh, I've heard this term, but what does it mean? What is an angel investor? And how can people maybe find out more if they're curious about it?
So angel investing is basically you putting up your own capital, and um, making investments into companies that you believe in, really.
Mm,
And a lot of times these check sizes are much smaller than what you're hearing online, and so that it may sound daunting to get into, but it really isn't. Oftentimes, angel investing is a check to a friend. An angel investment is a check to someone you've known and seen their journey for the past 10 years, right? It's a very warm check.
mm,
And oftentimes it's very early stage. And so as an angel investor, you're probably making a check like $500 to all the way to $10,000, right? Whatever feels comfortable to you, but you're making a lot of it because the whole point is to make a lot and see a few like come to fruition. Um, and what's really cool about it is like you have power here, right? And we're talking about being a woman. Like the power is where you put your money, right? And so for me, like what's so cool about angel investing is thinking about how do you want to use your money to make an impact for the next 10 years. You can think about all the things you care about in this world. Now, if you care about, for me, like I really care about my child's education right now, right? I care about women's health. I care about women who are mothers. Then what I care about is meeting founders who are trying to solve some of the gaps in that world. I, as an angel investor, can put some money towards their mission and really help them make one step forward, move one step forward, right?
such a beautiful way for women to support women. And that's why I wanted to ask that question, especially just because I think when we put wealth into the hands of women, there's some really beautiful work that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love that this is one of the areas in which you are being so supportive. So thank you, first of all, and thank you for kind of shedding some light. I hope to, like you said, it happens in small ways too, which is so great because you see
Yeah.
online like, oh, this person's an angel investor. I'm like, okay, well, I do not have millions of dollars to give anybody. So I would like to start small, but that kind of makes me think differently. Like, gosh, I do know some female founded companies that I'd love to support. And perhaps it's just up to me to reach out to them and say, can I offer you a very small, a very small amount? But that's how it happens, right? Like every little bit counts. So,
Yes, every bit counts, and it's beyond just the cash that you provide, right? A lot of times, you know, people want strategic angels too. So if you have a skill set that you can offer, if you have a network, you have connections that you can provide and support the founder with, then your check size, is not just $1,000. It's an opening for them to be smarter in their business.
that's so beautiful. An opening for them to be smarter. That's so, so good. That is that invitation. I love that.
Yeah.
What do you think you want your impact to be on your daughter?
Yeah,
I know it's a
for
big.
me, and it's different for everyone, and thank you for like asking just for me.
Mhm.
Um, it's honestly my whole methodology and the way I make decisions and the way I behave. Um, I always um want to just have her become independent. And so,
Mm.
why am I choosing to make dinner and have it take a whole hour and a half long? Because I want her to be involved in chopping up the
Mm.
veggies, right? And it's going to take a long time, it's extremely messy, but I want her to gain the skill sets for the future and feel fulfilled in seeing something come to life, right? If there's anything that she gets out of the way I've brought her up, is that she's going to be extremely confident and independent. That's all that matters.
It's so beautiful. And I just love your response to that of like, we can make dinner take an hour and a half and you get to be part of it and you get to build it. And you also have those incredible sacred moments together that you
Mm-hmm.
will never get back. So
Yeah.
those are immeasurable. Um, I have a tradition on this podcast where at the end I have the guest leave a quote or just a piece of advice for the next guest, not knowing who it is. So, what I'd like to do is read what the last guest shared and then have you do the same, give you the opportunity to do the same. So, my last guest said that for anyone, this was kind of around for anybody feeling stuck. Um, she said, what I really want to impart on women is that I know you can figure it out on your own. I know you're capable enough, but you don't have to. And get the support because it is going to help you collapse time and get to your goals faster. And I just really loved that she shared that piece.
That is awesome. I am a very timid girl growing up, and if anyone ever asked me to say something, my face will immediately get red. But I was always a very nice girl. That's always been like the most common adjective used about me, especially because I'm also Canadian, it adds an extra niceness to me. I've always taken that as a trait to show people in this world that you can be nice and still be a leader. You don't have to be extremely bold or strong, and you don't have to be mean to your team members or to women around you. You can still lift people if you're up there. I just think kindness is one of the biggest pieces that maybe not the most common trait when you are like up there.
Yeah.
And so I always tell people this quote by Maya Angelou. It's going to be extremely cliche, but it's really, really true. Like that people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So it doesn't matter if like you've reached, 6.5 million, but if you've done that along the way, being mean to people, it's not going to be a memorable story. It's not going to be a story that inspires. But if you've done it along the way by being kind and you've lifted other folks along the way, it's going to be an incredible story.
That is so powerful. And gosh, Eva, I just feel like you are doing that and that you are walking ahead first and kind of paving that way for women to see that you can have that kindness. You can still be authentic to your true nature and you can be a powerful leader. And you've just left such an impression on me today. And I really appreciate that. I love how you're showing up and your vulnerability, your transparency, your humor, your stories. It's just all met with so much love. And so thank you for the work that you do and the way in which you do it. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Thank you for tuning into the show today. And before you go, I just have one quick favor to ask of you. There is a really simple way that you can help support me and help support this show, and that is to hit that follow button on whatever app you're listening to the show on. I'm trying really hard to level up the content and deliver unique value and amazing guests, and just hitting that follow button is the magic that will help continue to empower that. And remember that the world deserves to hear your voice and your stories, and you deserve a place at the top.